7:02 drive, it's 14 minutes to 6. We do this every Friday. We end the week off by talking to somebody who's in the news and who you may know something about, but you don't know what is their favorite song, for example, and most crucially, why. What kind of food do they like? But much more important, what memories does that food stir up, whether good or bad? We're going to be spending time with someone who's just put out a book that I think many people will be interested in knowing more about. I have it with me. It's called The Dating Playbook, How to Win at Mjolo and Love. The author is Dudu Nhlabathi-Madonsela, and she's with me right here in our 702 Drive studio. Dudu, welcome. It's great to have you with us.
Good afternoon, John. How are you?
Good, fine, thanks. It's great to have you. I'm sure, the target market of your book for a number of reasons, but what struck me going through it is it's a fun book, it's an enjoyable book, but it's also quite a serious book because this is serious stuff. And I'm going to start, as we chat briefly about the book before learning a bit more about you. There's a chapter called The First Cut is the Deepest.
Yes.
It's quite early in the book. And you talk about how people are affected by how they grew up. And I'll read just 2 sentences from it and get your response. The impact of growing up in a broken family can also be seen in the dating scene, particularly in South Africa. You go on to say, children learn by observing the actions of their parents rather than simply listening to their words. In writing this book, in addition to the good advice about dates and what to do on first dates and so on, you're also saying this is a serious reflection, the difficulties in dating, of our difficulties as a country, it would seem. I don't know if I'm making it more serious than you put it, but that's what struck me.
That is definitely it. What I realized was that when it comes to dating, there's so many variables at play.
Yes.
And a lot of people do not realize this. I mean, my favorite line is, if South African economy was growing at double digits, we probably wouldn't have the pandemic that we have when it comes to dating.
Yes.
And what people don't realize is that there's a lot of things that we carry with, an internal narrative that's informed by the way we were socialized, informed by the observations that we made in society when we were young, that informs as to how we form interpersonal relationships. And, you know, you said the question around also in the context of the country. So somewhere in the book, I talk about the migrant labor system and how a wife was left behind, and what she did was that she told her daughter, don't trust men, because some of those men never came back or didn't send money, or she elevated her boy child into the man of the family. And what happens is that these people meet later in life. The girl has been taught not to trust men, and this guy has been the male figurehead in the family. He's never been questioned about his actions, and then they get married.
Yes.
And they don't understand why they have so much conflict, because he's like, you cannot tell me what to do. And the girl is like, why should I trust you? Why should I be vulnerable with you? Why should I be feminine? Because I've seen what my mother has gone through.
So while you were writing this book, presumably you were thinking a lot about what people would like to know about, because you had an intention in helping other people. But presumably you must have done a lot of thinking about and reflecting on your own life, literally from your first moment of consciousness, because you're suggesting we shaped right from the beginning.
Yeah, and you know what really helped is that I have quite a big TikTok following.
Right.
And I address a lot of social issues on TikTok. And just reading it and also just reflecting on some of the observations I've made as a child, you could see the similarities, and there's a pattern, and that we're seeing amongst especially a group of people between the ages of 25 and 55. And for me, I think, you know, having that social narrative come through in my observations and being able to correlate what I see and what I know with that was actually quite helpful in structuring this book and being clear in terms of what is it that people should hear about in terms with regards to their dating life, so that they can be able to improve.
It's a wonderful mix of kind and compassionate, but also there's some pretty hard-nosed stuff, including a chapter called The Dating Marketing Value.
Yes.
Marketing or market value?
Market value.
The dating market value. You have your own background as having been in business at all. Do you find that there are a lot of people who kind of know you or think they know you, and they say, sorry, I know you're probably quite busy, but I've got this thing I'm trying to deal with. And are you now able to say, hey, get the book, do some homework?
Yeah, so what I've found is that there's 2 types of people.
Yeah.
There's people who are like, they just want short-term strategies. I need
Yes.
a man, I need to fix it, I need to get him back, I need him
Yes.
now. And those people usually I shy away from, because There's the long term and then the short term strategy.
And there's the work you got to do.
Yes,
Hey?
and the long term is the work. And if somebody puts in the work, reflection, self-development, looking at the patterns, and why do you choose the people that you choose? Then when it comes to the short-term strategies, even if you apply them from a healthy place. And I think a lot of people don't come from a healthy disposition. And that I worry about, because you can learn all the short-term tactics you like, but if you're not fine inside, you're still going to meet broken people.
Let's go way back. Let's go to Benoni, to Davidton. You're growing up.
Yes.
You are at St. Francis College, primary school, same school for secondary. So by all accounts, a fairly stable academic life and so on. Your mom was a teacher. Your dad very much involved in football, and you're the middle child of 3.
Yes.
What were you like as a teenager? How was your dating game then?
Well, no. Actually, I remember how old was I? 14.
Yeah.
And this boy said to me, "Why are you ugly? Why are you so ugly?"
Yes.
So I grew up believing
Which is
that.
extremely harsh.
Yeah, I grew up believing that I was unattractive. So
Yeah.
when I was with my friends and then the boys said, "Hey," I used to be like, "Okay, they're calling them. They're not for me," right? It took me some time for me to actually step into myself and be like, "Oh, actually, I'm not so bad looking after all." So I think, teens, I didn't do a lot of dating, but when it came to my 20s, and that's one of the reasons why I became a dating coach, was because I woke up one day and I looked at this guy I was with for 2.5 years and I was like, how did I get here? I'm still convinced
You were not the first, by the way, on the planet, or in this room, by the way.
I'm convinced I was bewitched. That's my story and I'm sticking to it. I was bewitched.
Tell us about home. You, in the notes you sent us, and my condolences to you for this, very, very close to your dad. He passed while you were writing the book, and I can only imagine how difficult that was. But you do, and that was where we started, say that the way we engage with the intimate bonds we either look for or form later in life are shaped by how we were at home. I mean, take us to the family dinner table. What was it like?
Do you know, my dad was a very deliberate person. He had a vision for his life. I remember, telling this to people at his funeral. My dad he grew up in absolute poverty. He walked from Swaziland to South Africa.
Right.
To go and be reunited with some of his family. And then he got his family out of poverty and brought them into South Africa and educated his brothers and his sisters and his cousins, one person at a time. So, and dinner for me, my dad was a wise man and a very liberal man. I'm 43 years old. There's not a lot of girls, black girls my age, who can say they could have conversations with their father at the dinner table around sex, around boys, around politics and so forth. And my dad was very open-minded when it comes to that. And I think it was very good in building my confidence and that of my late sister. So I had a younger sister and she was very vocal. But we were quite confident people. And the one thing that I always appreciated about my dad was that my dad never pressured us to get married, to have babies and so forth. He always said it will happen in its own time. And I remember the day I brought the lobola letter home, my dad was like, "Is this boy sure? Does he know you?" And I was like, well.
Well, at least he said it to you and not to the prospective man.
Yes.
We asked about food and you said chicken feet.
I love, my mom is a snob, right? So she used to buy us Woolies food for lunch and all sorts of things. And I love authentic African food.
Yeah.
And I love chicken feet. And then the funny thing is that my husband grew up in poverty. He's also one of those amazing stories, got himself out of a shack and he is where he is. And to him, chicken feet, his grandmother used to sell chicken feet because it was, I think she used to go to a butchery and these were the leftover meats and she'd go and sell it. She said, this was staple food for us. And I'm like, it's got collagen.
Yes.
I love it. It's good for my skin. But I absolutely, I love chicken feet. I order chicken feet on Uber Eats. That's how much I love it.
Okay. So did you, I don't know about your mother-in-law, did you have a chance to have a chicken feet or had she passed by?
No, she is. She was actually at my launch.
Okay.
I felt sorry for her because, the things I was talking about, I had to be like, right now I'm not your daughter-in-law, I'm just a girl on stage.
Yes.
Yeah.
We'll talk later.
Yeah, but I make the best chicken feet if anyone ever wants.
Okay, well, that is a good way of making sure your supply and your quality standards are kept up. Very briefly, your book, The Biology of Belief, Bruce H. Lipton. I haven't read it. The subtitle, Unleashing The Power of Consciousness, Matter and Miracles. And what I get from it, the little bit I've read, your body cells and everything you do are affected by your thoughts. There's no separation whatsoever between mind and intention and thinking and outcomes, both personal in your own body, but collectively in the relationships you have.
And I like his work. How I found his work was I've had a couple of friends and my late sister who've had cancer.
Right.
And I've seen how that, in terms of, it's the attitude towards the disease that determines to what extent the disease consumes you. That's really my belief. And I found this book as my sister had gone through cancer twice, and the last time it was just a hard battle for her. But I found this book and I was reading around how your thoughts, your emotions, and how, we carry emotions, we carry certain things, and those things manifest into all sorts of diseases in our body. And I really like his work because his work, he says, people believe they are born with a disposition for a certain disease, or I have these genes and so forth. And he says, no, it's not about your genes. It's really around how your thoughts manifest certain scenarios in your life, and also even diseases within self. And the very same thoughts that you used in order to create that disease are the very same thoughts that you can use to heal yourself. And it's about tapping into that and being able to heal yourself through the process which he recommends.
So that is the favorite book, for now at least, of my guest, Dudu Nhlabathi-Madonsela. It's called The Biology of Belief by Bruce Lipton. Her book is called The Dating Playbook, How to Win at Mjolo and Love. Dudu, thanks so much for coming in. We're going to play out with your song choice. Again, it's music I don't know, but we're going to listen to Tom King. The song is called Excuses. Thanks so much for sharing with us your song, your book, and your dish.
Thank you.
Let's have the music.
News,
Experts,
analysis,
where things stand
what you need to know. Drive home with John Perlman
on 702.